You can feel it before you can explain it. The chemistry is strong, the look is intense, the touch feels warm, hungry, almost unforgettable. For a moment, it seems like you have finally met someone who wants you in a deep and real way. But then, something changes. The same person who pulled you close starts acting far away. The same passion that felt electric turns cold, distant, confusing, and you are left asking one painful question: what just happened? In this script, we are going deep into 7 shocking sex patterns, often linked to a dismissive avoidant style, and the hidden triggers behind them. This is not about shame, it is not about blaming anyone, it is about seeing the pattern clearly so you can protect your heart, understand the dynamic, and stop blaming yourself for someone else's fear of closeness. Some of these signs are subtle, some hit hard, and some may explain things you have been replaying in your head for months. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the more the puzzle starts to make sense. What happens in private often reveals what words never do. And when sex becomes the place where fear, control, desire, and distance all meet, the truth comes out fast. If you have ever felt deeply wanted one night and strangely shut out the next morning, this may explain more than you think. One of the first patterns is the push and pull of intimacy. In the beginning, a dismissive avoidant may seem fully into the connection. They may start sex, crave it, enjoy it, and even make you feel chosen in a powerful way. During the early stage, the energy can be intense because everything still feels light, exciting, and safe enough to control. But the moment sex starts carrying emotional meaning, the distance begins. The problem is not always physical closeness. The deeper problem is what that closeness starts to mean. Sex can create bonding, it can soften walls, it can wake up feelings that have been buried for years. And for someone who learned to survive by depending only on themselves, that emotional opening can feel dangerous. So just when the bond begins to deepen, they pull back, they become busy, they act distracted, they stop reaching, they change tone, they may even create small fights for no clear reason. From the outside, it feels sudden. Inside them, it feels like an alarm going off. Their system reads connection as risk. That is why the attraction can still be real, yet their behavior becomes confusing. Watch this closely, because this pattern tricks many people. The issue is not always lack of desire. Often, it is that desire starts turning into attachment, and attachment feels like losing control. That is when the retreat begins, and it can leave the other person shocked, hurt, and chasing answers. Another pattern is sex that feels present on the surface but empty underneath. It can look passionate, it can look skilled, it can even feel intense in the moment. But somehow, when it is over, you feel alone instead of close. That is because for some dismissive avoidant people, sex becomes more about control than connection. They may avoid eye contact, they may keep the room dark, they may focus more on performance, rhythm, or physical response than on emotional presence. Everything can feel polished, yet distant. They may know how to create excitement while still keeping their real self hidden. That emotional distance is not always planned in a cold way. Sometimes it is simply the only way they know how to stay safe. If they stay in the physical, they do not have to fully enter the emotional. If they make sex about doing instead of feeling, they never have to risk being deeply seen. And that matters, because being seen is often what scares them most. This is why a partner may walk away feeling strangely rejected even after intimacy happened. Their body was there, but their deeper self never fully arrived. And when a partner tries to turn the moment into emotional bonding with softness, eye contact, affection, or vulnerable words, the avoidant may shut down even faster. Keep listening, because this next pattern is where many people get pulled into a cycle they do not understand until the damage is already done. A very confusing pattern is sudden disinterest after intense passion. This one can feel like emotional whiplash. At first, the connection may move fast, the chemistry is high, the eye contact is deep, the attraction feels almost unreal. It may even seem spiritual, like the kind of intimacy people dream about. They may come on strong, they may act sure, they may say or do things that make the bond feel rare and meaningful. But then, as soon as you open up, as soon as you trust it, as soon as you respond with real emotional warmth, something shifts. They cool off, they go quiet, they text less, they stop initiating, they become hard to read. Why does this happen? Because the sexual high was exciting while it stayed in the zone of desire, fantasy, and present moment intensity. But But once the emotional weight enters the room, talk of commitment, future plans, vulnerability, real attachment, they start feeling trapped instead of connected. The same moment that made you feel closer may have made them feel engulfed. And when that fear gets triggered, distance becomes their escape. This is why some people feel love-bombed and then left in the dark. It is not always fake desire in the beginning. Sometimes the beginning was real, but the closeness it created reached a level they were not ready to face. That does not make the pain smaller. It just explains why the drop can feel so sharp. And if this part is hitting home, stay with me, because the next pattern shows why many avoidants choose setups that let them leave before anyone gets too close. Many dismissive avoidant people seem more comfortable in casual sexual connections than in committed ones. Casual feels safer because it comes with built-in distance. There is less expectation, less emotional duty, less pressure to explain feelings, and always an easy exit door. Friends with benefits, undefined situations, no strings arrangements. Those setups can feel perfect to someone who fears emotional dependence. In those spaces, they can enjoy desire without carrying the full weight of intimacy. They can stay wanted without feeling responsible for another person's heart. That is the appeal. But the pattern changes quickly when the other person starts wanting more. The moment the connection asks for honesty, consistency, labels, accountability, or emotional care, the avoidant may back away hard. Sometimes they go cold. Sometimes they become dismissive. Sometimes they act almost offended by needs that are normal in a growing bond. The trigger is not always the relationship itself. It is the feeling that now they must be emotionally answerable to someone. That can feel like pressure, exposure, even loss of freedom, so they retreat to recover their sense of control. And this is where many partners get hurt, because what looked easy and warm suddenly turns sharp and detached. If you have ever felt someone enjoy your closeness only when it stayed light, but become distant the second it meant something, this may be why. And the truth gets even clearer after sex, because what happens after intimacy often says more than what happens during it. One of the clearest signs is the avoidance of after-sex intimacy. For many people, the moments after sex are soft, bonding, and emotionally rich. It is the time for cuddling, talking, smiling, staying close, breathing together, and letting the walls drop. But for a dismissive avoidant, that quiet closeness can be the most triggering part of all. They may get up fast, they may reach for their phone, they may crack a joke, change the topic, head to the bathroom, get dressed quickly, or leave the room emotionally before they leave it physically. To the partner, it can feel harsh. To the avoidant system, it can feel necessary. Why? Because after sex, the armor is thinner, defenses are lower, the body has opened, the heart is more exposed. Even a few seconds of true closeness can create a kind of vulnerability hangover. They may suddenly feel raw, uncovered, too reachable, and when that happens, their nervous system pushes them back toward distance. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle, but the emotional message lands hard. Do not come closer right now. This is important because many people blame themselves in these moments. They wonder if they did something wrong, looked wrong, asked for too much, or imagined the earlier warmth. But often, the shift is not about your worth. It is about what closeness wakes up in them. And the next pattern may be the most surprising, because sometimes the place they feel safest is not real-life intimacy at all, but fantasy. Another strong pattern is choosing fantasy over real intimacy. Some dismissive, avoidant people live more comfortably in imagined desire than in shared emotional closeness. Fantasy is controlled. Fantasy is private. Fantasy does not ask for compromise, truth, or mutual vulnerability. In fantasy, they can feel intensity without risk. They can create desire without being fully known. They can enter scenes in their mind where nothing is demanded from them except stimulation. That is why some may consume a lot of erotic content, stay attached to imagined scenarios, or seem more alive in mental escape than in real connection with a present partner. The strange part is that they may truly crave passion. They may want heat, desire, excitement, and strong physical energy, but when those same feelings appear in real life with an emotionally open partner, the experience becomes less safe. Real intimacy has eyes. Real intimacy has needs. Real intimacy can ask, what do you feel? What do you want? Can you stay? And those questions can shake an avoidant person deeply. So instead of being fully present, they may drift into performance, fantasy, mental distance, or distraction. The body may stay in the room while the deeper self pulls away. If this feels familiar, keep going, because the last of the 7 patterns sits even deeper. It is not just about control, it is not just about distance. Often, beneath all of it, there is shame, and shame can quietly shape desire in ways most people never talk about. The hidden pattern underneath many of these behaviors is deep shame around desire, touch, pleasure, and need. Many people with dismissive avoidant traits grew up in homes where feelings were ignored, closeness was inconsistent, love felt conditional, or vulnerability did not feel safe. When that happens, a person may learn to disconnect from their softer needs very early. They may begin to believe that needing comfort is weak, wanting closeness is dangerous, and expressing desire is risky. So even if they have strong wants, fantasies, or sexual curiosity, they may carry guilt around those feelings. They may fear being too much, not enough, too needy, too exposed, too strange, too open. That internal shame can turn intimacy into a battleground. Part of them wants connection, another part braces for rejection. So if a partner sees them too clearly, asks them to name what they want, or responds to their hidden desires with too much direct attention, they may suddenly feel embarrassed, judged, or emotionally naked. Then comes the retreat. They pull back. They act like they do not care. They minimize what happened. They protect themselves by becoming cool on the outside, even if something tender was touched inside. This is why the behavior can look uncaring, when the deeper reality may be fear mixed with shame. And this matters, because once you understand that the coldness may be covering old emotional pain, the pattern becomes easier to read, even if it still hurts. But understanding the pattern is only part of the story. The bigger question is why these patterns repeat, and why sex becomes such a powerful trigger point in the first place. Sex is not just physical, it carries meaning, memory, attachment, power, comfort, fear, and identity all at once. For someone with dismissive avoidant defenses, that mix can be overwhelming. They may handle flirting better than feelings, attraction better than tenderness, and desire better than dependence. In the early stage, everything feels manageable because nothing has fully landed yet. But as intimacy grows, sex stops being only an act and starts becoming a mirror. It reflects trust. It reflects need. It reflects the possibility of being deeply known. That is where the trigger often lives. If closeness once led to disappointment, criticism, engulfment, or emotional neglect, then present-day intimacy can wake up old danger signals even when the current partner is kind. The body remembers before the mind explains. That is why some avoidants look calm while their nervous system is screaming for distance. And this is also why logic alone does not fix the pattern. A caring partner may say, "You are safe with me," and mean it fully, but safety is not only an idea. It is a felt experience, built slowly. Stay with this point because it matters. When sex activates old fear, the avoidant may not understand their own reaction. They just know they suddenly want space, control, or escape. So, if you have been trying to decode mixed signals, remember this. Inconsistency can come from inner conflict, not just bad intention. Still, inner conflict does not erase the impact, and that impact on the partner can be deep, quiet, and devastating if it goes unnamed. For the partner, these patterns can create a painful emotional storm. You may start second-guessing yourself. You may wonder if you moved too fast, cared too much, said too much, or expected too much. You may replay every message, every touch, every silence, trying to find the moment everything changed. And that is one of the hardest parts of this dynamic. It makes stable people feel unstable. It makes loving people feel needy. It makes honest desire feel like a mistake. But hear this clearly, another person's fear of closeness is not proof that you were too much. It is not proof that wanting tenderness after intimacy is wrong. It is not proof that your needs are unreasonable. The trap is trying to earn emotional safety from someone who pulls away the moment real closeness begins. The more confused you feel, the more likely you are to chase clarity from the same person creating the confusion. That cycle can drain your self-worth slowly, so what helps? First, name the pattern without romanticizing it. Second, stop using your empathy as an excuse to ignore your own pain. Third, look at behavior, not chemistry alone. Strong passion is not always strong capacity. And if someone can only meet you in desire but not in emotional presence, that mismatch will keep hurting no matter how powerful the attraction feels. The next part matters just as much, because this is not only about recognizing the wound in someone else, it is also about what healing can look like if the avoidant person is ready to face themselves honestly. If someone recognizes these patterns in themselves, that awareness is a powerful first step. Dismissive avoidant behavior is not a life sentence. It is a protection system, and protection systems can change when they are understood with honesty, patience, and real work. Healing starts when a person stops calling distance freedom and starts asking what that distance has been protecting. It starts when they notice how quickly they disconnect after closeness, how often they turn tenderness into threat, and how strongly they depend on control to feel okay. Real change usually requires more than insight. It takes emotional practice. It takes learning how to stay present in small moments of closeness without running. It takes naming feelings instead of burying them. It takes tolerating warmth, eye contact, softness, desire, and aftercare without shutting down the second vulnerability appears. Therapy can help. So can honest self-reflection, nervous system work, and relationships that move slowly enough to build felt safety instead of forcing instant depth. But healing also requires responsibility. A person cannot keep hurting others and hide behind their attachment style forever. Understanding the wound should create compassion, not excuses. If you see yourself in these patterns, you are not broken, you are not doomed, but you do have to face what fear has been costing you. And if you are listening closely right now, the final piece is the one that brings everything together. What to take away from all of this without losing yourself in the story. The real takeaway is simple. Even if living it is hard, a dismissive avoidant person is not automatically cruel, and they are not beyond growth, but their behaviors can still leave deep marks on people who are trying to love in a real and open way. Understanding them can give you clarity. It can help you stop personalizing every cold shift and every confusing retreat. But understanding alone does not create safety. Compassion alone does not create consistency. And love alone cannot force emotional availability out of someone who still feels threatened by closeness. So if you are dealing with this dynamic, let your understanding be clear, not blinding. Watch for patterns. Watch for what happens after intimacy, not only during it. Watch whether closeness leads to honesty or escape. Watch whether tenderness is welcomed or treated like pressure. And most of all, protect your own heart while you are trying to understand theirs. If this pattern has touched your life, you already know how addictive the highs can feel and how painful the drop can be. But once you can name the cycle, you start stepping out of it. And that changes everything, because sex does not have to be a place where fear wins. It does not have to become a stage for distance, control, and confusion. In a healthier space, it can become what it was always meant to be: honest, warm, grounded, mutual, and safe enough for two people to stay present without disappearing. If this spoke to an experience you could never quite explain, then you are already seeing the truth more clearly now, and sometimes that clarity is where healing finally begins.